Good morning, good morning. This is Pierre Laguerre here, your daily motivator, always here to challenge, inspire, and motivate you. So today we're going to go on episode 478. And remember, this week I'm talking to you more about building your list, but primarily the 7 mistakes that most entrepreneurs make, as well as small business owners, when marketing. And this is important. If you listen to the last episode, 477, you will see that I talked about understanding who you're talking to. And I think this is important because a lot of times we forget the target market and we start trying to talk to everybody. And again, let me remind you, if you're talking to everybody, you are talking to nobody. So, of course, I'm hoping that you are an entrepreneur, somebody who's looking to start a side business, or you own already a small business and you're looking for marketing tips. So on this episode, what I'm going to talk to you about today is the fact that a lot of times we're saying the wrong things to the right people. In other words, you've already identified your target market. You know who exactly you're talking to. But the problem is that you now start telling them the wrong thing, things that don't really matter to them. I mean, let me ask you a question. If I put you before the Queen of England and you had one question to ask her or one thing to tell her, what exactly would you tell her? What would be your question to her? You see, you would take your time to think that through. Well, in the same way, you have to make sure that your message matches your market. And this is key because if you're selling to youngsters, for example, and we're talking here, in their 20s, millennials, in other words, you would use one lingo compared to if you were selling to senior citizens. You see, because each group actually has different key requirements. Each group understands on a different level. But in reality, what matters is that you understand what the lingo of each group is. You cannot refer to millennials the same way you would refer to baby boomers. And this is important because when we're talking about message to market match, what happens is that if you are talking to the right person, but you're telling them the wrong message, you've disqualified yourself. You see, you've shown that you don't know what you're talking about to them. Even if you are an expert, again, it has a lot to do with the lingo, a lot to do with how you address them. This is key because now if you want them to come closer, remember your job is to attract your target market to come closer so that ultimately they can decide that they know you enough, like you enough, and trust you enough to actually make an exchange with you. This is the key. So if you, let's say, are targeting supermoms who get tired a lot because they are, of course, supermoms, soccer moms and all, you need to address them in such a way that they're going to understand that you know what they're dealing with. This is important because a lot of times we look at the target market and we think any message will do. No, the same way you would take your time to know how you would address the Queen of England or the president of any country or the United States Senate. In the same way, you have to think about the message. The message is important. And what I want to remind you is this. A lot of folks are going out there and putting a message that says, buy, buy, buy. Buy. And when that's the message you put in front of your prospect, 95% of them are saying, bye, bye. Meaning, not today, not me, I'm out. What you have to do again is get them to raise their hands, but you've got to speak to them in the right lingo. So, for example, if we were talking to musicians, we wouldn't say, how many jobs are you doing this week? We wouldn't say, I've got a job for you. We would instead use the word gig because that's the language of musicians. They understand, oh, you got a gig? Yeah, I got a gig. So if you're speaking to that demographics, right, that particular demographic, you understand that they know it's all about a gig. If you're talking to politicians, it's a different language altogether. If you're talking to teachers, it's a different language. My question is, who are you addressing? Realtors? Different. Financial advisors? Consultants? Coaches? Each group is going to have its own lingo. And your job is to make sure you get in with your post, your advertising, in such a way that they see you already understand their lingo. You see, Your message has to speak to their hopes, their dreams, their fears, their pleasure principles. But most of all, you've got to speak to them as if you already knew what they're going through. And when they see the message, they have to say, oh, this person gets me. This person understands what I'm going through. And so what you've got to do, of course, you got to start by speaking to them. First, you have to address who. If this is you, here's what I have for you. We have different ways to do this. And one of the key things that I'm putting together is a whole document on how you can address that target market the best way possible. So let's get back to it. Again, you want to address a specific target market. If you're not converting, the reason you're not converting is because you are not speaking their language. And if you're not speaking their language, very soon and rather quickly, they will look for somebody who speaks their language. And this is important. For example, I live in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, 2 languages are spoken. Spanish, primarily, predominantly, and English. So, of course, if you're speaking English, somebody can translate for you. But if I come into Puerto Rico, even though I speak French and Creole, I could speak those other languages, but I doubt anyone would understand what I'm asking for. They'd probably ask me in Spanish or English, and then when they recognize they can't connect with either language, they would simply walk away. Well, in the same way, when you put your ad out there, people are walking away because they are saying, this doesn't compute. I don't understand. What is this person trying to say? So your job is to go into the target audience. If you want to do a better job, go into forums, into Facebook groups. There's a ton of public groups, and listen for the questions that they are asking for. That's your tip for the day. Listen for the questions they're asking for, because those questions reveal the language that they are using. Those questions reveal the pain, the problem, the issues, the fears, issues that they're having in that target market. And if you are able to come to the table with solutions, but that are actually matching their language, and that those solutions show them that you understand exactly what they're going through, guess what? You are a candidate for an exchange, meaning you are a candidate for them to do business with. So if this is giving you value for your business, for your marketing, go ahead and download your copy of the most profitable business model yet. It's a small ebook. It will cover 5 different business models. And out of that, you will find out which one I'm most bullish on and why I'm creating more courses, because of the fact that you need to understand there are 5 different business models that are currently prevalent out there. And most of them will make you money. But at the end of the day, which one, especially if you're starting a side business, will net you more so that you can transition fully from your full-time job to full-time income on your own terms. So this has been Pierre Laguerre, your daily motivator. I hope you've gotten value. If so, please leave me a comment. I'll catch you on the next episode.